Hello VC, welcome to another video. This is going to be the third instalment in my series Hunting X Through the Wild. So the idea of this is you choose an artist that you like, whose records are kind of reasonably well available. They're not like completely easy to get hold of. You have to kind of look around for them a little bit, and you'll find one here, you'll find one there, and it just kind of makes it into a little project. So the first instalment that I did was on Harry Nilsson, and I showed 3 Harry Nilsson records. So for this second instalment, I'm going to talk about this guy. This is Graham Parker. Graham Parker and The Rumour. Now what's quite strange about Graham's records is that on the cover it'll say Graham Parker, and then on the back it will say Graham Parker and The Rumour. So it's almost like his kind of secret band. So Graham Parker was a British singer-songwriter who came up in the 1970s. He was often bracketed and even compared to Elvis Costello. In certain ways they were similar, very literate songwriting. The Rumour were a bit like the Attractions in that they were a very good, hard-driving British band with a slightly kind of American sensibility. They sounded as if they'd kind of absorbed all the kind of R&B, rhythm and blues. They just sounded like a classic American barroom band, This was the 4th album. Now I had this already in my collection before I joined the VC, but I hadn't particularly thought about collecting Graham Parker or exploring his catalogue any further until Jeff Party recommended this record to me, which is a much later one. This is Struck by Lightning, which was released in the 2000s, I think. A great album, recorded actually with the Attractions drummer Pete Thomas in America. Highly literate songs, beautiful playing, just a wonderful record. And I thought to myself, right, I need to check out some more Graham. And it just so happened that when I, as part of that huge Oxfam mega haul that I've been showing recently, I've already shown loads of records from that haul. I think I spent about £70 in 6 minutes or something. As part of that haul, I found 3 Graham Parker albums, picked them all up. They were all in great shape. So I'm going to show you those 3 records, talk about them a little bit, and also give you some background on that one as well. So the first one in the series, this is for Graham. This is album number 2, Heat Treatment. Again, you can see here, credited to Graham Parker on the cover. You turn it around and it's Graham Parker and The Rumour. And there you have a shot of the band there. I just love that picture. To me, that kind of sums up everything that was great about 1970s kind of British rock. It kind of brings to mind the Stranglers and Elvis Costello and the Attractions and Dave Edmunds and Rockpile. They look so sort of un-pop star-ish. Absolutely brilliant. This is a great record, very raw. It was produced by Robert John Lang of Def Leppard fame. And at the time, I think Graham Parker himself wasn't that happy with it. He thought that Mutt Lang hadn't done a very good job on the production. Graham Parker also thought that vocally he wasn't really up to scratch. But now, at this distance, you just listen to it and it just sounds like a great kind of, British rock record, really. Really good, strong songwriting, very strong performances. We have a bright red inlay. And then it's the label is the Vertigo label that we all know and love. So this record came out in 1976. It was his 2nd album and it charted at number 52. So not a particularly well-performing record. And in fact, Graham Parker's career has been characterised by a very kind of up and down. His chart fortunes were never as strong as, say, Elvis Costello. He was dropped from various record labels and then picked up again and dropped again. His career never really gathered the momentum that it sort of could have done, really, for a variety of reasons. But the next couple of albums, in fact the next 2 albums, 3 albums, show him on a kind of upward curve generally. And after that I think things went a little bit pear-shaped for him. But certainly a very good album, that one. Number 2, that was Heat Treatment by Graham Parker and The Rumour. So the next one in the series is this one, Stick to Me. Now this was produced by Nick Lowe, came out in 1977, charted at number 19, and it had a troubled history. there was a problem in the studio when they were recording it. They'd done all the tracks and then something went wrong with the tape oxidised basically, and they had to go back to the drawing board. I think the original sessions were possibly not produced by Nick Lowe, but Nick Lowe had to be kind of called in to hurriedly record the album again, and they had to start again. So I don't think at the time Graham Parker was very happy with this record. I think he thought it, in the end, it had been a kind of rushed, botched job. And but now, if you listen to it, actually, it sounds fine. The rawness of it actually works in its favour. Side 1 contains some really good, hard driving songs. Stick to Me, I'm Going to Tear Your Playhouse Down, Problem Child, Soul on Ice, Clear Head. Very, very kind of relentless driving kind of feel to it. Side 2 is slightly more kind of laid back, and the songs are a bit more unfocused, I think. But certainly Side 1 is fantastic, and taken overall, this is a really strong album, despite the misgivings that Graham Parker had about it himself. So yeah, this is album number 3, charted at number 19 in 1977. Okay, so then we have this record here. This was his 4th album, and this got to number 18 in the charts, so it went one higher than the previous one. This came out in 1979 and was produced by the legendary producer Jack Nietzsche. It was voted at the time, in 1979, one of the top 10 albums of the year by the NME. And also, when Rolling Stone came to compile their list of the 500 greatest albums of all time, they had this at number 334. This is the album that most people know Graham for. It's got a very distinctive, iconic cover. I've seen lots of people show this, and it's just one of those great British albums. It's just not black, and it's Vertigo again. But interestingly, it wasn't as highly charting as the subsequent album, which is far less well known. That album being the last of the 3 that I picked up in Oxfam. This is the Up Escalator. This came out in 1980, produced by Jimmy Iovine, who went on to produce Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And this album was more of an attempt to appeal to the American market. I think at the time critics didn't like what they perceived as Graham kind of tampering with his sound a little bit. Bruce Springsteen is on this record. I think it was seen as being a bit more generic. It had a kind of bigger sound to it. Perhaps the guitars were a bit lower in the mix, the keyboards had come up, and so on. But again, if you go onto Amazon, you'll find a lot of very good 5-star, 4-star reviews of this record. I think it sounded great. I kind of see what people mean. It's not quite as raw and blistering as the previous ones, but still a fine album. Now, this album actually got to number 11 in the charts, so you can see his career was on the up at this point. As well as Springsteen, this record also features the talents of the keyboard player Nicky Hopkins, who is one of those kind of legendary people whose name reverberates down through rock history. He played with the Stones, he played with John Lennon, and so on. So yeah, a definite attempt to go down a more kind of American route. But like I said before, Graham Parker and The Rumour and the albums that he's made subsequently, the ones I've heard this one. He's always had, to me, a very American sensibility. There's influences there of kind of classic American R&B and so on. So this album was possibly not the big departure that it was accused of being at the time. So yeah, from 1980, that was the Up Escalator, and that was the last of the 3 records that I picked up in Oxfam. So that's it for now. We'll have to see how many more albums by Graham that I find. His discography is quite large, quite extensive. I don't even know if you can get all the albums on vinyl. We'll have to see. But certainly that's another little project for me. Hunting Graham Parker through the wild. And thanks for watching, BC. See you soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.